Whether you're a seasoned vet of the payments industry or a brand new rookie who just heard the term dual pricing for the first time, you're in the right place. This is the only podcast that shares the strategies and stories behind selling merchant services, all from the perspective of those on the front lines. Welcome to AgentFirst. Hey, it's John. In just a second, we'll get to part 2 of our conversation with Chad Rapper, president of True North Payment Solutions. But I want to make sure that you know that this is part 2. If you haven't already listened to part 1 and heard about Chad's start in the industry and the time he almost jumped out of a high-rise in Cincinnati, you'll want to go back and listen to that first, and then come back. We'll be here waiting. So your experience is not unique, unfortunately. That's a story that we've heard. Sure. I know I've heard from multiple people. But one of the things that I'm interested in is kind of the thread of I had some experiences that weren't great, and I know you moved on from Heartland, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you didn't leave the industry, right? And so, was there a moment where you kind of said, oh, this is my place, right? I can see a future here. I can see my future here, even if it's not at this organization or I'm looking for the right fit. But was there a moment that kind of clicked for you?
Yeah. I mean, I knew early on in even the Fifth Third career that the way we had control over what we do and over what we make. This is such a unique sales opportunity because in most jobs, it's like you're selling this widget in sales and you're selling this widget to this sector. Mm. Whereas with us, when I'm hiring people and I'm touting the possibilities of this job, you drive down the street for 5 minutes. How many opportunities do you pass? Right. That's what's so unique about this is what we're doing. And I'm not selling you this thing in hopes that this is going to be good. What I'm doing, you're already doing what we do.
You need it, right?
You already take credit cards. Yeah. Let's just see if we could be more efficient with it and make the process maybe a little faster. And so early on, I saw the forest through the trees, and that opportunity is huge, and you're going to make what you're worth. If you put in a lot of effort, you stay the course, realizing, much with many sales jobs, it's a roller coaster. And the people that make it know that when you're in that valley, you can either be like, oh, crap, I'm not going to do this. I can't make it. Or you can look, that adversity in the face and give it the finger and be like, no, this is not who I am. This is where I am at right now, but this doesn't mean where I have to stay.
Yeah. Now, I know that you have we've talked about this with Ira, and I think this will be a common theme probably that comes up is that you have a competitive sports background.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel like that is played into benefiting you, hindering you? Is that something you feel like has really helped there?
I think you'll find most sales professionals, they love competition.
I agree. I think it's a common thing for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's not many sales professionals, especially in this industry, that are like, oh, I'm really an introvert.
Yeah.
Because that just doesn't happen. Yeah, I was a gymnast, and there's just that, with gymnastics is very unique compared to other sports. With football, you're out there with your team. Basketball, you're out there with your team. Gymnastics, you have a team, but when it's go time, it's you. The entire place is staring at you. And so, that feeling of like, preparing and practicing, and then when it's your moment, you do your routine, it's very similar to sales. You practice your pitch, you practice how you want to talk to people, you practice the message you want to get out there. And then when you get in front of that merchant, it's go time, and you want to be natural. You don't want to be cheesy. You don't want to be pushy. And I think the people who are able to really convey a message without coming across as super robotic and super scripted, you're going to have the success. And we all know, you get that deal signed.
Yeah.
The hair in the back of your neck stands up, and you're excited because, yes, you're making money. Money's good. Money pays bills. But knowing you're going to have an impact on a business. A quick example, little sidebar. I have a local coffee shop in my town, and she's been with us for a long time. And I had signed her quite a long time ago. And she was saving pretty significant money on a monthly basis. And I remember saying to her, I'm like, this is great. I'm like, this is money that, you're basically giving yourself a big raise. And she's like, no, this is money I can use to give my girls a raise.
Oh,
and cool. That hit me pretty hard. So it was like, it's local. My thing was always working local. And being able to have an impact on a local business to where now her girls are going to get a raise, which means, we know when people make more money, they tend to work better because they're proud they feel like they're getting paid what they're worth. And it was one of those aha moments that I still talk about consistently today, where you have one of those epiphanies. You're like, man, this isn't just me selling this service. This truly has an impact on this business and the lives of the people that work for the business.
So you've been in this industry for 20 years. Yeah. You obviously a lot of staying power. Obviously, a lot of adversity you've overcome. Is there something that a thing that was the biggest adversity you had to overcome? Was there maybe a moment, a topic, a situation, something you said, I was struggling with this, and I've learned to overcome this, that's really helped me grow, maybe in spite of that, or maybe change that into your superpower?
That's deep.
Yeah, it's a deep one.
Deep.
Yeah, we're going deep here.
Yeah, no, and yes, I remember there was a time when I think when I had transitioned over to Heartland, and it's full commission, and it was very different than how Fifth Third did things. So there was quite the learning curve.
Right.
And it had taken a while for me to really get into my own, and finances were tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my wife and I were like one bad mishap away from just being broke.
Yeah.
And it was tough. And that's a hard thing as a husband. You don't, you want to be a provider, you want to contribute. And, it was just one of those things where, she stood by me, and had the faith, I think most of the time, that things were going to get better. And thank God that they did. But yeah, it was just getting over that hump, because when you have that slow period, it's easy to let self-doubt creep in.
Absolutely.
And then you start questioning yourself.
Yes, yeah.
But, fear is a lie. And so you got to push it away and just trust yourself. Trust that you know what the process is, and you put it into overdrive, and hopefully, you do what you need to do and you pull yourself out of that. So yeah.
Step by step, little by little, yeah. Get there and overcome that. And obviously now today, you're in, more of a leadership position. You have a very loyal team of people you work with. And you've done that, on the same side on your the gymnast side as well, right? Is that kind of a common theme in your life, would you say? Transitioning from more of the I'm the guy out there performing to now I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching the success of others.
Definitely. I think, you get to the point where it's like you've done yourself for a long time, and, you have to be the focus, which is understandable because, you have to pay bills, you got to pay a mortgage, you got to take care of your family. I loved being in gymnastics, and during COVID, I started up again myself.
Really?
At 48 years old at the time, my son had challenged me. He's like, "Hey, you think you can still do a backflip?" And I was like, "No." It had been 32 years since I did one, but I accept the challenge.
Yeah.
So we went out in the backyard. I put a mat down, and I could always flip off something. Like if I'm at a park, I could flip off a park bench because I've got the height already.
Sure.
But I haven't done it from the ground. So I set up a little aerobic step thing that I just did a few jumps off of, flipped off that, no problem, kicked it aside, stepped up, can't think about it, and just chucked it. Landed on my feet. You thought I would have won. You would have thought I won the Olympics.
Well, for sure. At that age, you did. Yes,
right.
That counts.
Right. I lost my mind. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I want to find a gymnastics class. Yeah. Now, a lot of gyms don't have that liability, whatever.
Yeah.
Found one that did. Enrolled, started taking a gymnastics class every Wednesday night. Before I knew it, I had my back handsprings back, my full twisting backs, double twisting. And it was just amazing. I did that for a couple of years. And then the coach that did that class was leaving for another gym. And the owner of the gym said, "Hey, what do you think about taking over this class on Wednesday nights?" And I thought, yeah. And so then I took that over, and I've got a big class of usually it's anywhere between 15 to 20 people. And it's kind of the same thing. We start with very basics, like a front handspring, but watching someone with no experience suddenly hit it for the first time,
I can't imagine.
And watching their reaction, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So you're up there rocking the uneven bars and stuff?
That's a girls' event, so no.
Way to sound really knowledgeable, Justin.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and we do the flippy bars and the twisty.
Yeah. The twisty.
Yeah. The ringy things.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the
these
ribbons,
are really
the
technical terms.
Right,
Yeah.
The ribbons and stuff, right? Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. So I know obviously as you've moved around a little bit, finding the right fit. As Justin talked about, you've got a team that has kind of traveled with you, which I think is a testament to your leadership and also to just the environment that you've created. And again, I'm talking about being competitive and enjoying winning at sales and business, but in a lot of ways, I think we're all driven by that success is really just a means towards success in kind of our family and in our life. Talk a little bit about kind of where that is now and maybe, where that journey has gone and even what your dreams or hopes for that are in the future.
Sure. So I'll back up a little bit. So Heartland, I mentioned the part about being threatened to be demoted because my wife had a daughter and I took time to be with them.
How dare you?
I know. So selfish. So at that time, there was another company called Mainstream that was trying to recruit me.
Mm-hmm.
And any of us that work for Heartland know that you're kind of conditioned to believe that ISOs are the devil. If you work for an ISO, you probably worship the devil and eat puppies for breakfast.
Obviously. And you hate business.
You hate business, right?
And you're just trying to ruin them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when Mainstream first hit me up, I was like, no thanks, not interested. You're an ISO. You probably have tier pricing and lease. And then thank God, probably a month or two later, they hit me up. And this was around the time I had that conversation with my boss about being demoted, possibly if my numbers didn't pick up. And I said, you know what? It costs nothing to talk to someone.
Right.
And so I did. And much to my shock, they were me.
Yeah.
They were like me. And I made the jump and I was with them for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And they were just, I can't say enough positive. You've heard me talk positive about them.
Yeah.
Great people.
Great company. Great company.
Great company. They treated us like people all the time, not just when we were doing well.
Yeah.
And so I loved that. And then when, Global came in and gobbled them up as they do, that's when, my team, we had to make a decision. What are we going to do?
Sure.
And luckily when I say I have an amazing team, that's an understatement. They're just amazing, amazing, amazing people that make this job so fun, and I was very blessed that they wanted to kind of follow and keep our little family together. And it wasn't just me. Like, I don't want to give myself credit. It was the fact that we had this energy on the team where we all helped each other. And they would help me as much as I would help them. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I got a guy on my team, John. What's up, John? Great tech guy. If someone needs something super techy and it's beyond my knowledge, we get John involved.
That's cool.
We got someone that's great at analyzing statements besides myself. So if I'm not available, there's always someone that can help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I totally went off topic of your.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So I think that's good because that's part of your story. But tell me a little bit about kind of how it translates to things at home. And you talked a little bit about being able to be present for your kids' stuff and obviously even the flexibility to be able to teach the gymnastics class and such. But how has kind of and my thinking here is for those folks that are maybe early in this industry and trying to figure out, is this just like any other sales job, right? Or is this try it for a couple of years and then go take some other? And you've got enough experience to say, like, no, you can make a career out of this, and not just a career that you make money and yay success, but a career that lets you build a life that you are hoping to build.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was asking about. Is just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, family, much like you guys, is extremely important.
Yeah.
I'm super blessed to have an amazing wife and amazing daughter, Lexi, and my son, Jackson. And being able to spend time with them and not having to, get up at the crack of dawn to sit in a car and sit in traffic and commute. And then you sit in the office, you got someone breathing over your shoulder. Again, some people are cool with that and God bless them. That's just not me.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling of having someone reaching over or breathing over my shoulder. I want to control that. And being able to do something that gives you the ability to be home. Like my wife works from home now also. She does IT with a hospital.
Oh, that's cool.
And she was always home a little bit, but then COVID kind of solidified.
Mm-hmm.
She's home. And, I have people sometimes that are like, oh, what's it like being at home and your wife's there too all the time? I love it.
It's amazing.
I do. Yeah. I love it. I love seeing her. She's an amazing person. So we have zero issues with that. And just having the ability to do that if, I have a crappy day and I don't feel like working, cool. I don't have to. One of the reps in the team, they have a crappy day. They don't have to worry about it. They're not answering to me. I'm not their quote unquote boss. I'm just hopefully a mentor. And for someone new coming in the industry, I think we all would agree that there's a lot of people talk about the good old days in selling in this industry. That is right now.
Amen.
And anyone who says right now isn't the best time ever in the history of this industry to be selling, they don't know what's going on. Before, yes, it was difficult because it is, if you're coming into a 1099 type position, yes, it's full commission. You got to build up a residual base before you have steady income coming in, and that can be tricky. Yeah. Not everyone has a savings where they can rely on that, or maybe you have a spouse and that helps. That's making decent money. But now someone can come in. I mean, we look at, someone on my team, his residuals in the past 8 months have gone up over $10,000 a month. And back in the day, like even the Heartland days, Justin, how long would it taken someone to make 10 grand a month in residuals?
Years and years and years.
Years.
Yeah.
And it's virtually impossible financially for most to be able to sustain that.
Yep.
Where nowadays, if someone's going to put their nose down and go hard and listen, are they coachable? It makes me think of back with Mainstream, I had a kid I hired. I'm not usually hiring brand new people. Done that a lot, but at this point I was kind of focusing on industry people. And a guy on my team said, "Hey, my niece's boyfriend, would you talk to him?" Okay. So I talked to him, and we talked for a while, and then we hung up, and I'm like, "Crap, I like him.
Yeah.
Damn it." So I talked to him. I said, "All right, here's the deal. I'll bring you on. You have to do everything I say." He's got no experience. You got to listen. When I say jump, you ask how high. And he's like, "Cool, not a problem." And we would talk, train him constantly. He'd call me at 10 o'clock at night. We talked for an hour. And that first year, he finished number 3 in the company.
Wow, that's awesome.
And, I'd love to pat myself on the back, but really it was him. He did what he was told. He didn't question it. He went out. When he had questions, he would great questions, but it was really fun seeing someone like that explode the way they did just for following the process.
Sure.
And I think, so these days, someone wanting to get in the industry, I think it's the best time because they can make a great income relatively quick compared to what we had to deal with back in the day and taking years to make any kind of money. That's not the case now. And so, I think you can jump in. And the best part about this job is the freedom it gives you to live your life. I play in bands as a hobby, and I'm able to, tour and do whatnot, and it doesn't affect anything.
To add on to that, and that was actually something I was going to say, a little departure from the business side of it. I think most people would sit here and listen to this podcast, or if they're watching it, they see a guy with, tattoos, talking about punk rock bands, playing in a band, rough upbringing, and they think like, oh, this guy is just, a party guy, chugging beers and stuff like that. But you've actually got a unique approach to the punk rock thing that I think is really cool, and I'd love to just have you share that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So in my younger days, when I first got into like punk and stuff, and I was a skateboarder, it's common, as kids, you experiment with things.
Sure. Recreational
substances that we probably shouldn't, but we do. And for me, early on, I loved the rebelliousness of punk rock, right? I just love that attitude. But for me, it got to a point where like I wanted it to be deeper than a crazy haircut and combat boots. And there was a band called Minor Threat from DC in the early 80s, and they came out with a song called Straight Edge. And basically, he inadvertently started a movement.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was basically these group of kids that loved the rebelliousness of punk rock, but not the self-destruction part of it. And they said, we're still going to be, against a lot of these societal things, but we're going to take it a step further and not just have a crazy haircut, but we're going to not drink, we're not going to do drugs, and there's going to be no exceptions to that. And that resonated with me because I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Because like all the kids I know in high school, they're wanting to do that stuff.
Right.
So how am I different from them other than this haircut I have?
Yeah.
So I made the decision that, you know what? I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. I'm not going to touch anything. And that's held for, I think it's been about 35 years now.
That's awesome.
And it definitely, I would say, on the path I was going at one point, wasn't a good path. And I could say, it saved my life. And it's not something a lot of people necessarily stick with for years. A lot of people get into it. It's cool for a few years and they move on. But for whatever reason, for me, it's stuck.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I just don't, life's hard enough. I don't need alcohol and that stuff making me a little slower, maybe not as sharp as I could be. So for me, it worked well. For others, they live their lives. This worked for me, and I felt it's really helped me get to where I am today.
Did you have a mohawk?
I didn't know. I had I had my whole head shaved except for like the bangs.
Oh, okay.
So I just kind of.
Okay.
Sit around with a mud flap, my mom always called it.
Nice.
Yeah.
One last question from me is, and this is a kind of a common thing we ask of all of our guests, is that, our goal with this podcast is that some dude sitting in middle of nowhere, Montana, who's working for some company, just got started 2 months ago, got sent a 3-ring binder and is getting yelled at by a manager, really doesn't know, I'm not sure this is for me. What do you say to that guy? What do you say to that woman that is struggling and just, what's my next step? What should I do? How do I move forward? What is a piece of advice you would give that person?
I think the most important thing is to find a company you gel with. You want to find people that you feel kind of going back to what I said about, the early Heartland days. You want to find people that treat you like a person, that you feel like they really want you to succeed, that you're not just a number. Someone doesn't benefit by calling them up and giving them a hard time that they didn't hit the numbers they were supposed to hit today, right, or they haven't signed the amount of deals this month they were supposed to hit. Instead of giving them a hard time about that, feed into them, help understand why that is. What can you do to push them to better themselves? And so that's the most important thing. Find a company that supports you. Find a company that's got great support tech-wise, and isn't afraid to answer questions. And really importantly, maybe get yourself with the team. That's one of the things I love about my people is the fact that they're so willing to help each other, and we don't hold our secrets tight to the chest.
Right.
Because what's the point? Just because I tell you what I do doesn't mean you're going to do it the same way.
Right.
But, I've told you this numerous times. When I share knowledge with people, it's in the hopes that it'll help them be better. And then the more people that do that, it's the whole, rising tide, all shit,
Yeah.
The more we sell, the more everyone else sells, the more money the company's making, the more options we have. And it's just, for me, it's common sense. So find a good company, feel supported, and don't work for a company where you're made to feel like you're just an island.
It's awesome.
That's great. So I have to ask, because I know you've got 2 kids. Mm-hmm. Are either of them going to end up in this industry? Because I know Justin's he's at 1 for 2 right now, and I think Nini's already offered my 15-year-old daughter a job.
Definitely,
if she could figure out how
she
to
could do
hire
it.
Right
she could do it.
That's a great question. My son, he loves engineering, and he's only 14, but he's smart as heck. So he wants to go into some type of engineering. But in the meantime, when he's old enough, I told him, he likes making money. He's a little hustler. He's trying to mow lawns this summer.
Yeah, nice.
So I would absolutely bring him or my daughter if she, wanted to do this. I would absolutely bring them in because it's even if you're doing it part-time, it's hard to be successful part-time. But if you're going to school and you're doing this as a side gig and you can get a few merchants here and there,
yeah,
it doesn't suck.
Not to argue with.
Yeah. So,
especially in this day and age with dual pricing and such.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, I appreciate the time. Thank you for just sharing your story and your background and letting us kind of pick your brain a little bit. This has been great. And thank you for taking the time to listen. Again, he's Chad Rapper, Justin Volrath. I'm John Skelly. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.